Princess Zareth stood at the tall window of her tower room, looking out at the red moons of her home planet. Her purple skin caught the light, and her 4 arms hung down at her sides like heavy weights. Tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow. She would marry a man she had never met. A brutal general from the enemy empire that had killed thousands of her people. The door behind her opened with a soft sound. She did not turn around. She knew it was her father by the heavy steps on the stone floor. "My daughter," Emperor Kethfer said in his deep voice. "You understand why this must happen?" Zaroth closed her large eyes. "Yes, father. I understand. That you are giving me away to stop a war. I understand that my life means nothing compared to the lives of billions." Her voice was calm, but her hands shook with anger. The Emperor moved closer. His massive frame filled the space behind her. "Your life means everything to me. But if we do not make peace with the Draconian Alliance, they will destroy us all. General Vexter is a strong warrior. He will protect you." "Will own me," Zareth said. She finally turned to face her father. "I have read the reports about him. He kills prisoners, he burns planets, thinks females exist only to bear children and follow orders." Emperor Kethfer looked away. Even he could not deny these facts. "Sometimes we must make hard choices for the good of our people." "Your people," Zareth said, "not mine. My people are the ones who believe in learning and growing. My people are the scientists and teachers and artists you ignore. My people want to explore the galaxy, not conquer it." The Emperor's face grew hard. "You will do your duty. The wedding will happen. The alliance will be made. This conversation is over." He left the room, and Zaroth was alone again. She pressed her face against the cold window and tried not to cry. In all her 25 years, she had never felt so trapped far across the galaxy. Captain Jake Mitchell sat in the command chair of the UES Horizon, Earth's first ship built for travel between star systems. He was reading a message that had just come through the communication system, and he could not believe what it said. "Dr. Morgan," he called to the woman working at the science station. "Come look at this." Dr. Lisa Morgan walked over, her brown hair tied back in a simple way. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. She had been studying the different species they might meet on this mission. "What is it, Jake?" Jake handed her the electronic pad. "Just got invited to an alien wedding. Apparently it's some kind of big political event, and Earth has been asked to send representatives." Lisa read the message quickly. Her eyes grew wide. "This is incredible. The Vorthok Empire and the Draconian Alliance are the 2 biggest powers in this part of the galaxy. If they're making peace through marriage, it could change everything." "That's what I was thinking," Jake said. He stood up and walked to the front window of the ship. Outside, stars moved slowly past as they traveled through space. "Earth needs friends out here. We're still new to all this galactic politics stuff." Commander Alex Rodriguez looked up from his station. "Are we sure this is safe? I mean, we're talking about 2 civilizations that have been fighting each other for centuries. What if someone decides to blow up the wedding?" Jake thought about this. Alex was right to be worried. The 3 humans on the ship would be very small and weak compared to most alien species. But this was also a chance that might never come again. "We'll be careful," Jake said. "But we have to go. This is exactly the kind of opportunity Earth needs." Dr. Morgan was still reading the message. "It says here that the wedding will take place on Vorthok Prime, the capital planet of their empire. Representatives from dozens of species will be there. This will be the biggest gathering of alien civilizations in recorded history." Jake nodded. "Set course for Vorthok Prime? Let's make sure Earth makes a good first impression." 3 days later, Princess Zareth was getting ready for another day of wedding preparations when her servant rushed into the room. The small creature was shaking. "With fear, Princess," the servant said in a high voice. "There has been terrible news from the Draconian homeworld." Zareth felt her heart stop. "What kind of news?" "Plague, Princess. A disease that kills in hours. Millions are dead, including General Vexter." For a moment, Zareth could not speak, and she felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. So the wedding is cancelled?" she asked. The servant shook its head sadly. "No, Princess. Your father has declared that the wedding will still happen. He says any male from the attending species can take the general's place. The Alliance must be saved. The hope died in Zareth's chest as quickly as it had come. She would still be married to a stranger. She would still be given away like property. The only difference was that now she did not even know what species her husband would be. "Tell my father I will be ready," she said quietly. The servant bowed and left. Zareth sat down on her bed and stared at the wall. Somewhere in space, ships were coming from across the galaxy. One of them carried the man who would become her husband. She wondered if he was cruel like General Vexter had been. She wondered if he would care about her thoughts and dreams, or if he would see her only as a way to gain power. She thought about the old stories her grandmother used to tell her. Stories about love and choice and adventure. Those stories seemed like fairy tales now. Real life was about duty and sacrifice, and doing what was best for everyone except yourself. But deep in her heart, a small part of her still hoped that maybe, somehow things would be different than she expected. The great hall of Emperor Kethfer's palace was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Jake Mitchell had never seen anything like it. Creatures with crystal skins stood next to floating jellyfish-like aliens that glowed with soft light, snake-bodied. Diplomats talked with insect-like beings whose wings made clicking sounds when they moved. Jake felt very small and very human among all these alien forms. Dr. Lisa Morgan walked beside him, her tablet computer recording everything she saw. Commander Alex Rodriguez stayed close behind them, his hand never far from his weapon. "This is amazing," Lisa whispered to Jake. "I count at least 15 different species here, and those are just the ones I can see." Jake nodded, but his attention was focused on the front of the room where a massive throne sat empty. They had been waiting for an hour, and still no sign of the Emperor or his daughter, Captain Mitchell. A voice spoke behind them in perfect English. Jake turned to see a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. The being wore rich clothes covered in jewels. "I'm Ambassador Threshen of the Crystalline Hegemony," the alien said. "I wanted to meet the human representatives before the ceremony begins." "Nice to meet you," Jake said, holding out his hand. The alien looked at it but did not take it. "Your species is very new to galactic politics," Ambassador Threshen said. "Perhaps you do not understand what you are witnessing here today." Double quotes. Dr. Morgan stepped forward. "We understand this is a wedding to create peace between two powerful empires." Ambassador made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace through the sacrifice of an innocent female. How primitive. Your species still practices this barbaric custom on your own world, do you not?" Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Some humans used to do that long ago. Most of us believe people should choose who they marry." "Quaint," the ambassador said. "Choice is a luxury for species that do not face extinction." Before Jake could answer, the massive doors at the front of the hall opened. Emperor Kethfer entered, and the entire room fell silent. It was even bigger than Jake had expected, standing at least 8 feet tall with muscles that could crush a human without effort. His purple skin was covered in scars from old battles. Behind him walked Princess Zara, single quotes. Jake had seen pictures of Vorthok people before, but he was not ready for the princess. She moved with grace, despite her alien form, and her forearms were decorated with silver bands. But it was her eyes that caught his attention. Even from across the room, he could see the intelligence there and something else. Sadness. The Emperor raised one massive hand, and the room became completely quiet. "Friends from across the galaxy," he began, his voice echoing off the walls. "You are here to witness the union that will bring peace to our sector of space. But fate has changed our plans." Murmurs started around the room, but the Emperor continued. "General Vexter of the Draconian Alliance is dead, killed by a plague that has taken millions of lives. But the need for alliance has not died with him. My daughter will still be married today. Any male from the attending species may step forward to take the general's place and join our two peoples in peace." The room exploded with noise. Aliens spoke in dozens of languages, and the sound was deafening. Jake watched as several ambassadors moved toward the doors. Clearly wanting to leave quickly, Ambassador Threshen turned to Jake with what might have been a smile on his crystal features. You see how quickly your new friends abandon their duties when real sacrifice is required. Jake looked around the room. The floating jellyfish aliens were already leaving. Snake-body diplomats were gathering in a corner, speaking in angry voices. None of them wanted their people to be tied to this conflict. The princess needs a husband, Ambassador Threshin continued, but not a primitive human husband, surely. Your species has nothing to offer an advanced civilization like the Vorthok Empire. Jake looked at Princess Zareth again. She stood beside her father's throne like a statue, but he could see her hands shaking slightly. She was afraid. In all this talk of politics and alliances, everyone had forgotten that she was a person with feelings. What happens if no one steps forward? Jake asked. Then the alliance fails, the ambassador said. The war continues. Billions die. And the princess will be married to whoever her father chooses from his own people, likely someone who will keep her locked away forever. Dr. Morgan grabbed Jake's arm. Jake, what are you thinking? Jake did not answer her. Instead, he started. Walking toward the front of the room, the alien conversations grew quieter as beings noticed the human moving forward. By the time he reached the space in front of the Emperor's throne, the hall was silent again. Emperor Kethfer looked down at him with surprise. You are the human captain. Yes, Your Majesty, Jake said. Captain Jake Mitchell of Earth. You wish to speak? Jake took a deep breath. I wish to volunteer, Your Majesty. No. I will marry your daughter and help forge an alliance between our peoples. The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then the room exploded with noise again, but this time it was different. Aliens were shouting in shock and disbelief. Princess Zareth stared at him with wide eyes. Jake tried to read her expression. But alien faces were hard to understand. Emperor Kethfer held up his hand for silence again. Human, he said slowly. Do you understand what you are offering? Marriage in our culture is not temporary. It is a bond that lasts until death. You would be giving up your old life forever. I understand, Jake said. Your species is weak, the Emperor continued. You have no great technology or weapons to offer. Why should I accept you as a husband for my daughter? Jake had expected this question, because humans have something your empire needs, Your Majesty. We know how to make peace without conquest. We know how to build alliances based on respect, instead of fear, and we know how to see people as individuals, not just political tools. The Emperor studied him for a long moment. Behind Jake, he could hear Dr. Morgan and Commander Rodriguez whispering urgently, probably trying to figure out if he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. But when he looked at Princess Zareth again, he saw something new in her eyes. Not just sadness. Now, but curiosity. And perhaps for the first time in weeks, a tiny bit of hope. Princess Zareth sat across from Jake Mitchell in a small room deep inside the palace. The traditional meeting of minds ceremony required them to be alone together for the first time. According to Vorthok custom, couples must share their deepest thoughts before they could be married. Jake looked nervous. His hands rested on the stone table between them, and she could see they were shaking slightly. She found this strangely comforting. At least he was honest about his fear. I have never done this before, Jake said quietly. Dr. Morgan explained the process to me, but I am not sure I understand it completely. Zareth studied his face, humaned. Faces were much more expressive than Vorthok faces, and she could read his emotions easily. Fear, yes, but also determination and something else. Kindness. Place your hands on mine, she said, extending her forearms across the table. The connection will happen naturally. Jake hesitated for a moment, then placed his two hands on her. For the moment their skin touched, both of them gasped. A warm feeling spread through Zareth's mind, and suddenly she could sense Jake's thoughts and memories. She saw Earth through his eyes. Green forests and blue oceans, white clouds floating in a bright sky. She felt his love for his home planet, his sadness at leaving it behind, his hope that this mission would help his people find their place among the stars. Your world is beautiful, she whispered. Jake's eyes were closed, and she knew he was seeing her memories too. Her childhood in the palace, learning to read ancient texts while other royal children learned warfare. Her mother, who had died when Zeroth was young, teaching her that strength came from understanding, not violence. Her secret dreams of traveling to distant worlds and learning about other cultures. You never wanted to be a warrior, Jake said, his voice full of understanding. No, Zareth admitted. I wanted to be an explorer. I wanted to study the stars and meet new peoples. I wanted to learn their languages and their stories. Through the connection, Jake shared more of his memories, his time as a soldier on Earth, fighting in wars that seemed pointless now. The day he decided to leave the military and become a diplomat instead. His belief that talking was always better than fighting, even when talking was harder. You were a soldier, but you chose peace, Zeroth said. War only creates more war, Jake replied. I learned that the hard way. The connection grew stronger. Zareth found herself experiencing human emotions she had never felt before. The way humans could feel joy and sadness at the same time. Way they could love people they had never met just because those people were in trouble. The way they could hope for things that seemed impossible. Jake was experiencing Vorthok thoughts that no human had ever shared. The deep satisfaction of understanding a complex mathematical problem. The way Vorthok minds could hold dozens of different ideas at once and see connections between them. The ancient Vorthok respect for knowledge and wisdom. Your people are not primitive, Zareth said suddenly. The other species are wrong about humans. Jake opened his eyes and looked at her. What do you mean? They think humans are weak because you do not have powerful weapons or advanced technology. But they do not understand that humans have something more valuable. You have the ability to change, to grow. It's become more than you were. Through the connection, Jake could feel how much this meant to her. In Vorthok culture, the ability to learn and adapt was the highest virtue. It was why she had been so unhappy about marrying General Vexter, who believed that strength came only from force. Your people value learning above everything else, Jake said. That is why you became so advanced. It's not because you conquered others, but because you never stopped trying to understand the universe. Yes, Zareth said. But my father and his generals have forgotten this. They think the only way to survive is to make others fear us. Jake squeezed her hands gently. Maybe together, we can remind them of a different way. The connection between them pulsed with new understanding. Zareth could see Jake's plans forming in his mind. Not plans for conquest or control, but plans for cooperation, ways that humans and Vorthax could work together, sharing their different strengths. You really want to help my people? She said with wonder. Want to help all people? Jake replied. Humans, Vorthox, even the species that think we are primitive. The galaxy is big enough for everyone if we just learn to work together instead of fighting each other. Zareth felt something she had not expected to feel, respect for this human. Male who had volunteered to marry a stranger from another world. But more than respect, she was beginning to actually like him. Tell me about Earth's music, she said suddenly. Jake smiled, and through the connection she felt his joy at her interest. He shared memories of concerts and songs the way humans used sound to express emotions that had no words. Zareth had never experienced anything like it. Vorthok communication was very direct and logical. The idea of using patterns of sound to create feelings was completely new to her. It is like painting with emotions, she said in amazement. Exactly, Jake said. Would you like me to sing for you? No one had ever offered to sing for Princess Zareth before. In her culture, music was considered a waste of time. The connection, she could feel how important it was to Jake, how much it would mean to him to share this part of his culture with her. Yes, she said. Jake began to sing softly, a simple song about home and hope and the beauty of distant stars. His voice was not perfect, but it carried genuine emotion. Zareth felt tears forming in her eyes. Something that had never happened during the connection ritual before. When the song ended, they sat in comfortable silence for several minutes. The connection between them had grown into something deeper than the traditional ritual required. They were no longer strangers being forced to marry. They were two people who had found unexpected understanding in each other. Jake Zeroth said finally, I need you to know something. When I first saw you volunteer, I was grateful that you were not like General Vexter. But now, after this, I am grateful that you are exactly who you are." Jake smiled, and she could feel his happiness through their connection. "Zareth, I came here expecting to make a political alliance. I never expected to find someone I could actually care about." The door to the room opened, and Emperor Kethver entered with several advisors. The meeting of minds ceremony was over, and it was time to prepare for the wedding itself. But as they broke their hand contact, both Jake and Zarath knew that something had changed between them. What had started as duty was becoming something much more interesting, something that neither of them had expected, but both of them were beginning to hope for. The wedding ceremony took place in the largest hall Jake had ever seen. Thousands of beings from dozens of different worlds filled the space, all watching as he and Princess Zarath prepared to be joined in marriage. Of human formal clothes and Vorthok ceremonial armor, creating something that belonged to both cultures and neither. Dr. Lisa Morgan sat in the front row with Commander Alex Rodriguez, both of them looking worried and amazed at the same time. Jake could see other humans scattered throughout the crowd. Colonists and traders who had traveled from across human space to witness this historic moment. The ceremony began with ancient Vorthok traditions that Jake had spent days learning. He recited words in the Vorthok language that spoke of honor and protection and partnership. His accent was not perfect, but he spoke with sincerity and princess. Zareth smiled each time he got a difficult word right. Then came the human traditions that Jake had requested be added to the ceremony. He spoke his vows in English, promising to support Zareth's dreams and to work with her as an equal partner. Many of the alien guests looked confused by this concept, but Princess Zareth understood perfectly. "I promise to explore the galaxy with you," Jake said, looking directly into her eyes. "Not to conquer it, but to learn from it. I promise to help you build bridges between our peoples, and to never see you as anything less than my equal in all things." Princess Zareth spoke her own vows in both languages, promising to share her knowledge and her world with Jake, and to help humanity find its place among the stars. As she spoke, Jake could feel the psychic bond between them growing stronger, just as Dr. Morgan had predicted. The moment came to join their hands for the final binding. In Vorthok tradition, this was when the couple would become connected for life, sharing thoughts and emotions in a way that no other species could understand. Jake placed his hands on Zareth's 4 hands and immediately felt the connection snap into place. It was stronger than during the meeting of minds ceremony, deeper and more permanent. He could sense her thoughts and feelings as if they were his own, and he knew she could sense his. Through the bond, he felt her happiness and relief. She had been dreading this moment for weeks, expecting to be tied forever to someone who would treat her like property. Instead, she found herself connected to someone who saw her as a person, who valued her intelligence and her dreams. The wedding celebration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Jake had requested that human music be played, alongside traditional Vorthok songs, and the combination created something entirely new. Alien dignitaries who had seemed cold and distant during the ceremony found themselves tapping their feet to Earth rhythms. Ambassador Threshen of the crystalline hegemony approached Jake during the reception, his expression unreadable. "Captain Mitchell," the ambassador said, "I must admit I did not expect this union to be so successful." "Thank you," Jake replied, though he was not sure it was meant as a compliment. "Our species continues to surprise." The ambassador continued, "Perhaps we have underestimated human potential." Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed and armed guards rushed into the hall. Jake's military training kicked in immediately, and he moved to protect Princess Zarath. "What is happening?" she asked, her 4 hands gripping his arms. "I do not know," Jake said, "but stay close to me." Through the chaos, Jake could see Commander Rodriguez fighting his way through the crowd, trying to reach them. Dr. Morgan was right behind him, her face pale with fear. "Jake," Rodriguez shouted. "Draconian extremists, they got past the security." Explosions echoed from the corridors outside the hall. Jake realized that enemies had infiltrated the palace during the wedding, when everyone was distracted by the celebration. They were probably planning to kill both him and Princess Zareth to prevent the alliance from forming. "This way," Princess Zareth said, pulling Jake toward a side exit. "I know every passage in this palace." But as they reached the door, 3 draconian soldiers burst through it. They were huge reptilian creatures with scales like armor and weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Jake had never seen a draconian before, but he recognized the hatred in their eyes. The false princess and her primitive mate, one of them hissed in broken Vorthok. "Your alliance dies with you." Jake pushed Princess Zareth behind him and drew the ceremonial sword he wore as part of his wedding outfit. It was not much against energy weapons, but it was all he had. The first draconian raised his weapon, but Jake was already moving. His military training took over, and he rolled to the side just as the energy blast scorched the wall where he had been standing. The draconian had not expected the human to be so fast. Jake came up behind the creature and drove his sword into a gap in its scales. The draconian roared in pain and swung around, but Jake was already moving again. He had learned guerrilla warfare tactics during his time as a soldier, and he used them now. But he was not fighting alone. Princess Zareth was coordinating with the Vorthok guards, who had rushed to help them. Through their psychic bond, she could sense exactly what Jake was planning to do. She directed the guards to support his attacks. "Left side," she called out in Vorthok, as Jake feinted right. The guards understood immediately and caught the second draconian in a crossfire. Jake had never experienced anything like fighting while psychically connected to someone else. Princess Zareth could anticipate his moves and help him coordinate with allies in ways that would have been impossible otherwise. Together, they fought like a single organism with multiple bodies. The third draconian tried to escape, but Commander Rodriguez appeared in the doorway with a squad of human security personnel. The alien was caught between them and quickly surrendered. When the fighting was over, Jake and Princess Zareth stood together in the middle of the hall, breathing hard but uninjured. Around them, the wedding guests were cheering. They'd witnessed something remarkable, a human and a Vorthok working together so perfectly that they seemed to share one mind. Emperor Kethfer approached them, his expression filled with something Jake had not seen before. "Respect, my daughter," the Emperor said. "You and your husband fought like true warriors today." "We fought like true partners," Princess Zareth corrected him. "That is the human way, Father. They do not fight to dominate. They fight to protect, and they work together instead of alone." The Emperor looked at Jake with new understanding. "Perhaps there is much my people can learn from humans after all." The wedding celebration continued late into the night. But now, it was not just a political alliance being celebrated. It was the beginning of something new, a partnership between species that could accomplish things neither could achieve alone. As Jake and Princess Zareth danced to music that blended human and Vorthok traditions, other alien species watched and began to reconsider their opinions of humanity. The galaxy was about to become a very different place. 3 weeks after their wedding, Jake and Princess Zareth traveled to the neutral moon of Epsilon 7 for their honeymoon. The small moon orbited a gas giant in empty space, far from any major trade routes or military bases. It was supposed to be a peaceful place where they could learn to live together as husband and wife. The resort on Epsilon 7 was built inside a clear dome that protected visitors from the dangerous atmosphere outside. Jake and Zareth had a suite with windows that looked out at the swirling colors of the gas giant above them. It was beautiful and quiet, exactly what they needed after the chaos of their wedding. They spent their days exploring the moon's crystal caves and talking about their plans for the future. The psychic bond between them had grown stronger, and Jake found that he could sense Zareth's thoughts even when she was in another room. She could do the same with his emotions, knowing when he was happy or worried, without him saying a word. "Never expected marriage to be like this," Zareth said as they sat together watching the gas giant's storms. "I thought it would mean giving up my freedom. Instead, I feel like I can do anything." Jake smiled and took her hand. "That is what partnership is supposed to be. Two people making each other stronger, not weaker." Their peaceful honeymoon was interrupted on the 4th day by an emergency signal that came through the resort's communication system. The signal was weak and full of static, but the message was clear. The ship was in trouble somewhere nearby. Jake and Zareth looked at each other through their bond, and both knew what they had to do. They could not ignore people who needed help. Even during their honeymoon, the resort manager was a nervous alien with 6 legs and green skin. He did not want to let them leave the safety of the dome. "The signal is coming from the asteroid field," the manager said. "That area is very dangerous. Ships that go there often do not come back." "How many people are on the ship?" Jake asked. "Signal says 300, maybe more." "It is a colony ship, but it is very old. The life support systems are failing." Jake felt Zareth's determination through their bond. She would not leave those people to die, and neither would he. "We need a rescue ship," Jake said. "The only ship here belongs to you," the manager replied, "but it is small, cannot carry 300 people." Jake thought quickly. The ship could not rescue everyone at once, but maybe they could find another way. "Get me a communication link to the colony ship," he ordered. A few minutes later, Jake was talking to Captain Maria Santos, the commander of the colony ship Horizon's Dream. Her voice was filled with fear and desperation. "Captain Mitchell, thank God someone answered our signal. We have been drifting for 2 days. Our engines are dead, and life support is failing. We have maybe 6 hours of air left." "How many people are on your ship?" Jake asked. "And 27, Captain Santos replied. "Men, women, and children from 7 different species. We were traveling to a new colony world when we hit an asteroid. The damage is too bad to repair." Jake looked at Zareth. Through their bond, he could feel her mind working on the problem. She was thinking about Vorthok technology and human tactics, trying to find a solution that neither species could manage alone. "Jake," she said quietly, "I have an idea. But it will require both of us working together through the bond in a way that has never been tried before." "What do you mean?" "Can use my knowledge of advanced technology to stabilize their ship temporarily, but I will need your human ability to organize people and keep them calm. If we work together through the psychic connection, we might be able to coordinate a rescue that saves everyone." Jake understood immediately. It was dangerous and had never been done before, but it might be their only chance. "Captain Santos," Jake said into the communication system, "we are coming to help you, but I need you to gather all your people in the main cargo bay. We are going to try something that might sound crazy, but it is your best chance." 2 hours later, Jake and Zareth reached the colony ship in their small rescue vessel. The Horizon's Dream was badly damaged, with holes in its hull and systems failing throughout the ship. Jake could see why the resort manager had been worried about the asteroid field. Pieces of rock floated everywhere, and the space around them was like a maze of deadly obstacles. Zareth connected her ship's systems to the colony ship's computers and began working to stabilize the failing life support. Through their psychic bond, Jake could feel her mind processing information faster than any human could manage. She was calculating power flow and atmospheric pressure and dozens of other technical details all at the same time. While Zareth worked on the technical problems, Jake used the communication system to talk to the people on the colony ship. There were humans there, but also aliens he had never seen before. Some were scared, some were angry, and some had given up hope completely. "Listen to me," Jake said, his voice calm and confident. "My name is Jake Mitchell, and my wife and I are here to save you. But we need your help to make this work." Through the psychic bond, Zareth shared her plan with Jake. It was brilliant but complicated. They would use the colony ship's remaining power to create a temporary force field that would protect everyone during the rescue. But it would require precise timing and perfect coordination between all the survivors. Jake began organizing the people on the colony ship into teams. The humans would handle the power systems. The Altarian bird people would use their fast reflexes to monitor the force field. The rock-like granite folk would protect the children if anything went wrong. "I know you are all from different worlds," Jake told them. "But right now, we are all in this together. If we work as one team, we can all survive. If we panic or fight each other, we all die." Captain Santos was amazed by how quickly the survivors organized themselves under Jake's leadership. People who had been enemies just hours before were now working together to save each other's lives. The rescue took 4 hours. Jake coordinated the teams while Zerath kept the failing systems running through pure technical skill, working through their psychic bond. They could respond to problems faster than either could have managed alone. When the last survivor was safely aboard their rescue ship, Jake and Zerath collapsed from exhaustion. They had pushed their bond and their abilities to the limit, but they had saved everyone. Captain Santos shook Jake's hand with tears in her eyes. "How did you do it? How did you get all those different species to work together so perfectly?" Jake looked at Zerath and smiled. "We showed them that cooperation is stronger than fear." 6 months after the rescue at Epsilon 7, Jake Mitchell and Princess Zerath returned to the Vorthok capital as heroes. News of their successful rescue mission had spread across the galaxy, and beings from dozens of worlds had come to hear them speak about cooperation and unity. The great hall where they had first met was now filled with representatives from species that had previously refused to work together. The crystalline hegemony sat next to the ethereal collective. Former enemies shared the same space, all wanting to learn about the human Vorthok alliance that had saved 300 lives. Emperor Kethfer stood at his throne. But this time he was not alone. Jake stood beside him as an equal advisor, something that would have been unthinkable before the wedding. The Emperor had learned to value Jake's insights about diplomacy and leadership, and he often asked for the humans' advice before making important decisions. "My friends," the Emperor said to the assembled crowd, 6 months ago my daughter married a human stranger to prevent a war. Today I can say that this alliance has brought more than peace. It has brought hope." Princess Zerath stepped forward, and Jake could feel her confidence through their psychic bond. She was no longer the frightened young woman who had been forced into marriage. She was a leader in her own right, with ideas and plans that could change the galaxy. "Epsilon 7 proved something important," she said. "When different species work together, we can solve problems that none of us could handle alone. That is why my husband and I proposed the creation of the Galactic Refugee Assistance Program." The crowd murmured with interest. This was the first time anyone had suggested a galaxy-wide program to help people in trouble, regardless of which species they belonged to. Jake stepped forward to explain the details. "Every species has strengths that others lack. Humans are good at organizing people and solving problems quickly. Vorthex have advanced technology and scientific knowledge. The crystalline hegemony has incredible computational abilities. The ethereal collective can travel faster than anyone else. If we combine our abilities," Zerath continued, "we can respond to disasters and emergencies anywhere in the galaxy. No more ships dying alone in space. No more colonies abandoned when things go wrong." Ambassador Threshin of the crystalline hegemony stood up. Jake remembered how dismissive the ambassador had been during their first meeting, calling humans primitive and weak. "Captain Mitchell," the ambassador said, 6 months ago, I believed your species had nothing to offer the galactic community. I was wrong. The crystalline hegemony wishes to join this assistance program." One by one, other species announced their support. The ethereal collective offered their fast ships for emergency transport. The granite folk promised to help rebuild destroyed colonies. Even species that had been at war with each other agreed to work together under the new program. Dr. Lisa Morgan sat in the audience, amazed by what she was witnessing. She had spent years studying alien biology, but she had never imagined that humans could become the bridge between so many different cultures. Commander Alex Rodriguez was equally impressed. He had been worried about Jake's decision to marry Anne, alien princess, but now he could see that it had been the right choice. Earth would have full membership in the Galactic Council within a year, not as junior partners, but as equals. After the formal ceremony, Jake and Zerath walked through the palace gardens together. The red moons of the Vorthok homeworld hung in the sky above them, and Jake thought about how much his life had changed since he first arrived here. "I have something to tell you," Zerath said, her 4 hands nervously touching her stomach. Jake felt a wave of excitement through their psychic bond before she even spoke the words. "I am pregnant," she said with a smile that lit up her entire face. Jake picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing with joy. Through their bond, He could feel her happiness mixing with his own until he could not tell where his emotions ended and hers began. "Our child will be the first human Vorthok hybrid," Zeroth said. "Dr. Morgan says the pregnancy is progressing normally, and the baby will be healthy." "What will it look like?" Jake asked. "We will find out together," Zeroth replied. "Dr. Morgan thinks it will have qualities from both our species. Maybe your adaptability and my technological understanding. Maybe your emotional intelligence and my logical thinking." A few weeks later, Jake and Zareth stood before the full Galactic Council to present their proposal for what they called the Terran Doctrine. It was a new philosophy of cooperation that put working together above competing with each other. "For too long, our galaxy has been divided by fear and suspicion," Jake said to the assembled representatives. "Species have fought over resources and territory, believing that one group's success must come at the cost of another's failure. But the rescue at Epsilon 7 proved that this thinking is wrong," Zareth added. "When we work together, everyone benefits. When we share our knowledge and abilities, we all become stronger." The Terran Doctrine was approved by a vote of 47 species to 3. It established new rules for galactic diplomacy based on cooperation, shared resources, and mutual respect. Wars would be replaced by joint projects. Competition would be replaced by collaboration. As they left the council chamber, Jake and Zareth walked past a group of Vorthok children who were playing a game that Jake had taught them. It was a simple human game about working together to solve puzzles, but the children loved it. Nearby, human colonists were learning advanced mathematics from Vorthok teachers. The cultural exchange that had started with Jake and Zareth's marriage was spreading throughout both civilizations. "Look at them," Zareth said, watching the children play. "They do not see differences between human and Vorthok. We are all just people." Jake nodded. "That is the future we are building for our child. A galaxy where differences are celebrated instead of feared." 6 months later, Princess Zeroth gave birth to a daughter they named Hope. She had her mother's purple skin and her father's brown eyes. She had 2 arms like a human and enhanced intelligence like a Vorthok. But most importantly, she had the best qualities of both species: the human ability to adapt and connect with others, and the Vorthok drive to learn and understand the universe. As Jake held his daughter for the first time, he thought about the day he had volunteered to marry an alien princess. He had expected to make a political alliance. Instead, he had found love, purpose, and hope for the future. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.